My mother decided to support a student in need through an online platform. She didn't just cover her tuition, she also allowed the girl to stay in my room, wear my pajamas, and use my cosmetics. The girl, moved to tears, vowed to my mother, whom she called Auntie, that she would take care of her in her old age. Eventually, my mother exhausted her retirement funds to send her abroad for further studies. I opposed this decision, and in retaliation, the girl pushed me into the water, resulting in my death. However, I found myself waking up, reborn to the moment when my mother first decided to sponsor her. The girl pleaded, saying, "Auntie, please read my messages. I really need your help." I scoffed, took her phone, and told my mother, "We should sponsor genuinely needy students, not freeloaders online." My mother tends to be quite trusting. A few days ago, she posted online about her desire to help underprivileged children, and now her inbox is flooded with sponsorship requests, stories of getting into prestigious schools, and cries for assistance. I chuckled as I scrolled through the messages until one from a user named Lily caught my eye. Finally, I had found her. Lily's message read, "Auntie, I'm sorry to bother you, but I'm a poor student with 5 siblings, and my father refuses to fund my education. I'm reaching out to commend your kind heart. Good people have good fortunes." Her message was filled with genuine sincerity and kindness. If only I hadn't seen her true colors. At that moment, my mother walked into the room. "Olivia, did you take my phone?" she asked, noticing me browsing through the messages. She explained anxiously, "I just want to help some kids who can't afford school." I deleted Lily's message, blocked her, and returned the phone calmly. It was a wise move, considering that real needy students might not even have access to phones to go online, and there are too many scammers online. We should verify in person. My mother was pleased and agreed, saying, "You're right, I didn't expect you to support me." Internally, I sighed, realizing that if I didn't support her now, the situation might worsen later. Yes, I had been reborn. In my previous life, when my mother divorced my father, I was a teenager. I couldn't understand why she insisted on the divorce, or why she was always nagging. We barely communicated and grew distant. Later, my mother had a sort of breakdown, began posting online, and started helping numerous students. Lily was among them. My mother fell for their emotional stories, not just covering tuition and living expenses, but also buying tablets and branded clothing. Some students asked for money to buy expensive Apple phones for gaming, while others found the $3,000 monthly support insufficient. Disheartened, she cut ties with most, but continued to support Lily. Grateful, Lily deliberately took college entrance exams in our city, while I enrolled in an out-of-state university to distance myself. During a summer trip with friends, I returned home only to discover Lily living in my room. She greeted me softly, saying, "Hi, sis," wearing my pajamas, sleeping in my bed, and using my cosmetics. I was shocked and questioned my mother about the situation. My mother explained, "Lily had nowhere to stay for the summer, so I let her use your room. You can share." I was furious. Why should I share, and why is she wearing my pajamas? Lily, with tears in her eyes, grabbed my sleeve, saying, "Don't be mad, sis. I'll take them off right away. Don't upset Auntie. She's a good person." The more I became hysterical, the more my mother sympathized with Lily. She looked at me sadly. "Can you be considerate?" I felt like the odd one out. Apparently, Mom treated Lily as her own daughter, referring to her as her second daughter to everyone. My place in her heart was gradually usurped by Lily, who no longer seemed like a needy student. Her skin was radiant and healthy, making her appear as if she had been raised in luxury. I repeatedly asked my mother to make Lily leave, but she always responded that Lily was pitiful and like a sister. Every time I saw them bonding like a mother and daughter, I felt alienated. In later semesters, I chose school trips and internships to avoid returning home as Lily became more comfortable. My mother seemed to slowly forget about me, channeling her love into this new daughter. I graduated and returned home to pack, only to find Lily doing the same. My mother was preparing to send her abroad for studies at great expense. Sponsoring had escalated to this extent. Lily smiled apologetically while fixing her hair, saying, "Don't worry, sis. I'll bring you gifts from the UK." I was stunned. While I worked part-time through college, Lily flaunted expensive shopping hauls online with bags costing thousands. I diligently prepared for graduate school while Lily drained my mother's savings for her UK tuition. Who was the true needy one here? I contacted all my relatives to confront my mother once they became aware. They criticized her, asking, "Are you out of your mind? She's not even your real daughter." I confronted Lily, telling her we hadn't treated her badly. "What leverage do you have over her?" Lily remained silent, crying as though we had wronged her. Unexpectedly, my mother defended Lily, pushing me aside and saying, "Lily said you're useless and wouldn't care for me in your old age. I'd rather raise Lily." I was baffled. "Do you really think Lily will care for you like her family?" I asked. "Mom, what's happening?" My mother had completely lost her sanity. "You don't have to worry anymore. I've already gone to the notary public with Lily. From now on, she's my daughter. Let's end our mother-daughter relationship. Pack your things and leave today." I stared at my mother in disbelief. What was meant to be a sponsorship for a poor student had devolved into this. How did things escalate so far? That night, I walked alone on the river bridge, dragging my suitcase, unable to stop thinking about my mother's irrational behavior and Lily's smug demeanor. My thoughts were a tangled mess. Suddenly, someone shoved me from behind. I lost my balance and fell off the bridge. I didn't see who pushed me, only heard a familiar voice. "Sister, don't worry. I'll live your life well for you." Cold river water engulfed my senses, soaking my limbs. I struggled, but no one noticed me. Just before dying, my life flashed before my eyes like a movie. It showed me as a toddler learning to walk, with my mother encouraging me using Osmond Thus candy while helping me take steps. How did it come to this? I don't know how long had passed before I awoke from a haze. I opened my eyes, finding myself in bed with my mother preparing breakfast and urging me to get up. I had traveled back in time, 5 years before my mother decided to sponsor Lily. I told my mother about online scam stories. She promised, placing her hand on her heart, not to sponsor anyone online. Only then did I feel relieved. I agreed to accompany her on weekends to visit places that truly needed help. My mother became emotional, saying, "Olivia, I'm so happy you're talking to me so much. It's been a while." I felt guilty and held her hand. "I'll talk to you more, Mom. I know you've been struggling since the divorce." Her eyes welled up with tears as she turned away to secretly wipe them. In the past, my lack of communication with my mother allowed others to exploit us. When I realized the importance of family, it was too late. Even blood ties couldn't mend the years of estrangement. I kept my promise, spending weekends taking my mother to impoverished counties. We ended up sponsoring a little girl who had lost her parents and lived with her grandmother. The girl and her grandmother made a living by selling eggs at the market, though they only had one old hen left, barely able to lay eggs. Yet when they saw guests, the girl offered us her only remaining bread and watched us from behind the door. After understanding her situation, I told my mother, "This is who truly needs our help." My mother nodded, and we became the girl's sponsors. On our way back, I finally asked my mother why she was so determined to help poor children. She replied softly, "When I was a child, someone sponsored me to attend school. Your grandmother had 4 children, and there was no way all of us could get an education. Without the help of a kind soul, I would have never left the countryside. I've wanted to do this for so long. Your father wouldn't allow me, but after the divorce, I can finally do what I want." I sighed. I used to respond to your behavior with misunderstanding and resistance, never trying to understand why you insisted on it. Life continued, and with our support, the child started elementary school and sent us thank you letters in crooked handwriting. I graduated high school smoothly, and my relationship with my mother improved. She began to smile again. I thought everything from my past life was over, and Lily wouldn't disrupt our lives again. But reality struck hard once more. One summer day after graduation, I came home to a strange feeling. "Sister, you're back." At the entrance, I saw Lily sitting in our living room, standing up nervously. "Lily, how is that possible? I deleted her post and blocked her. How did she return?" I recalled her arrogance in my past life, making my mother feel like a stranger in her own home. My voice trembled as I asked, "Mom, who is she?" My mother sighed. "I met her on my way home. Her parents abandoned her and she couldn't return. She begged for help and it was raining, so I brought her in." This didn't make sense. Lily's story about her parents abandoning her was dubious. We didn't even live in the same state. Lily looked pitifully at me, bowing repeatedly. "Sister, I'm sorry for bothering you. I'll leave as soon as it stops raining." My mother, bless her heart, grew anxious. "Why rush? It's raining." A flash of triumph crossed Lily's eyes. At that moment, I finally understood. There was no coincidence. Lily came to my mother intentionally. Only one explanation made sense. She had traveled through time too. Glancing at the heavy rain outside, my mother said, "Listen to your aunt. Wait until the rain stops." Lily teared up, saying, "Thank you, Auntie. It's been a long time since anyone treated me this kindly." I steadied myself, recognizing that she had deliberately approached us, but I remained calm. I confronted Lily. "You're not from around here. How did you end up at our place? Do you need help going to the police?" Lily's eyes shifted, and suddenly, she dropped to her knees, making me kneel before my mother. "Auntie, I'm sorry. I lied. I wasn't actually abandoned. I ran away myself. I got into college, but my parents wouldn't pay because they favor boys over girls. They're only sending my brothers to school. I don't want to end up marrying young and having kids. If I go back, I'll be beaten to death. Please pretend I didn't come here. I'll leave right now." She began to stand, ready to leave, but my mother anxiously stopped her. She knew that Lily's family situation mirrored her own childhood. Because the family situation Lily described was just like my mother's past, every word hit home. Lily leaned her head on my mother's shoulder and began crying. My mother, with tears in her eyes, turned to me and said, "Olivia, do you see this?" I pulled her aside and said, "Mom, first, we've already been supporting another girl. Second, she ran away from home. If you let her stay because you feel sorry, how long do you intend to keep her? A night or a few days? What if her parents come looking for her? Or what if she's lying? Have you considered all of this?" My mother nodded and agreed, saying, "You're right. I just feel sorry for her. If she leaves, she'll get caught in the rain and be hungry. Sending her back means she'll get beaten again." Lily slowly approached us, bowing deeply to my mother, and said, "Auntie, don't worry. I only came to earn my own tuition and won't cause trouble for you and my sister." It seemed Lily wanted to stay with us for good. I calmly responded, "I believe you're capable of taking care of yourself. But first, let's eat. Can you cook? Come help me make dinner." Lily widened her eyes, but there was a housekeeper. Before she could respond, she stopped herself. My mother looked at her suspiciously. "Our housekeeper is on leave this month. How did you know we have one?" Lily tried to brush it off. "Because your neighborhood is so nice. I saw that most homes have housekeepers. Sorry, Auntie." My mother seemed slightly displeased. "You observe well, but we haven't always had a housekeeper." Suddenly, I clapped my hands and said, "Hey, I have a great idea. Wait for me." 15 minutes later, I returned from my bedroom with 2 paper documents and laid them on the table. My mother looked puzzled. "Olivia, what's this?" I smiled and said, "Mom, you're right. Lily is really pitiful. We should help her." My mother was surprised, but I gave her a knowing look. Lily, thrilled, asked, "Really? I can stay." I nodded and pushed the contracts toward her. Lily is 18 now, of legal age to work. Since our housekeeper is on leave, we can hire Lily as our temporary housekeeper. She'll receive room and board. You've had health issues this year, so she can help with chores. When she's free, she can find other work to earn her tuition. It's a win-win. My mother frowned at the contracts, but soon relaxed, smiling. "Why didn't I think of that? It's a great idea. Lily's tuition is covered this way. It's no trouble for us." Lily was taken aback, staring at the contracts. Feigning confusion, I asked, "What? You have nowhere to go right now? Do you think the terms aren't good enough?" My mother held Lily's hand. "Olivia is offering a fair wage. At least you'll be settled for now." Lily forced a smile. "No, I'm happy. Thank you for thinking of me, sister." The word sister sounded like she was gritting her teeth. I returned a slight smile. "You're welcome." I led Lily to the kitchen, showing her the basic utensils. Once inside, I shut the door. Lily's expression changed instantly. "Olivia, do you think you can control me with a contract? So you came back too." I crossed my arms, watching her furious face. I should have sensed something was wrong. Why hadn't your mom read my messages? Why didn't she reply? It was you playing tricks, right? What did you do? I replied coldly, You're really stubborn like a dog chasing what doesn't belong to you. Lily angrily retorted, You're only slightly more fortunate because of your rich mom. I'll end everything myself and it'll be mine. I was about to go to England and start a new life there. I don't know why I'm back here again. I slowly reasoned, because you killed someone. Lily stared at me, a slight smile appearing. I don't know what you're talking about. She flipped her hair. Your accidental drowning has nothing to do with me, right? Okay, let me help you remember. With that, I grabbed her from behind and dunked her head into the vegetable-filled sink. She struggled fiercely, but I didn't release her until she was unconscious. Feel familiar? Remember the past now? Water dripped from her hair, and cabbage leaves stuck on her. As she stared at me terrified, Are you trying to kill me? Then my mother's voice called out, What's going on? Lily, upon hearing what seemed like her savior, was about to play the victim when I shoved a rag into her mouth. I called back, Nothing, Mom, the fish was just hard to handle, and splashed some water. Lily spat out the rag, gagging at its dirtiness. But then she laughed suddenly. You'll never escape me. I'll replace you in this life too. I calmly reminded her, Don't forget what I just said. Know your place. You came to us. If you want to play, I'll play along. By the time Lily served the food, she had fixed her appearance. Her slightly red eyes gave her a pitiful look, like a little rabbit. Despite her worn clothes, Lily had natural beauty. With her innocent round face and fair skin, even her lies seemed believable. My mother noticed her expression. Are you okay? Not feeling well? Lily glanced at me and smiled. Nothing, Auntie. The onions got to me. She knew there wasn't an emotional bond with my mother yet. Whatever she said, my mother wouldn't believe it. After dinner, Lily cleaned the dishes and casually asked, Auntie, where do I sleep tonight? My mother slapped her forehead and said, Oh no, I totally forgot about this. Why don't you stay in the maid's room? Lily's face changed. Why don't you stay in the maid's room? The maid's room was a tiny space by the balcony, usually unused, meant for storage. Lily's face turned grim. Got it. After ensuring my mother was settled, I took Lily to that small room. Lily questioned, How is anyone supposed to sleep here? The room could fit someone, but it's much smaller than my room. I asked back, So where do you think you should sleep? Lily hesitated. I whispered, Or just like before, should I give you my bed and go sleep on the streets? Lily replied quietly, Don't get cocky. I only signed a contract, not a slave deal. What can you do to me? I sneered. Yeah, you can totally tear up the contract and leave my house, then you won't have to deal with this. With that, I left Lily standing there and went back to my room, locking the door, applying a nice face mask, and turning up the music. Since that storage room wasn't soundproof, and she was in my house now, I wasn't going to let her have any peace. The next morning, I lazily got out of bed. My mother was already in the kitchen, quickly waving at me and saying, Look at Lily. She got up early and cooked us a nice breakfast. And look at you, always sleeping in. Lily wiped her hands on her apron and walked to my mother. They say poor kids grow up quickly. You helped me. It's the least I can do. My mother lovingly patted Lily's head, and Lily placed a fancy breakfast in front of me. Sis, I made this special breakfast just for you. My mother encouraged. Try Lily's cooking. Yeah, as if she'd make me breakfast out of the goodness of her heart. I coughed, interrupting my mother. Mom, I think I caught a cold last night. I'm feeling sick and can't eat anything. My mother quickly touched my forehead. You do feel warm. Don't eat then. I'll get you some medicine. Lily looked hurt, saying, I got up at 4 a.m. to make this for you. I smiled. That's really kind of you. We shouldn't waste it. You should have it. Lily stood there frozen with the plate. Just as I thought, she had tampered with this special breakfast. I continued, You're the one who worked hard. You should eat it. We feel bad making you work since you came to our house. My mother nodded in agreement. Yeah, where do we find such hardworking kids nowadays? I said. I'll go get Olivia some medicine while you eat, Lily. Under our supervision, Lily had no choice but to reluctantly eat the breakfast. Soon after, she broke into a sweat and rushed to the bathroom to throw up. My mother worried, Is something wrong with the ingredients? Why are both of you sick today? I reassured her, Lily might still be getting used to the environment, that's all. When Lily came out of the bathroom, my mother gave her a bowl of soup. Lily weakly said, Thank you, Auntie, I'm sorry for the trouble. Then she took a big gulp and immediately spit it out. What is this, Auntie? My mother kindly replied, "It's water with incense ashes." I added, "Olivia said it's an old remedy for getting used to a new place. In my previous life, I threw up after eating something wrong, and Lily convinced my mother to give me a bowl of this incense ash water, making me sicker. Lily glared at me. I feigned concern. "You should drink it if you're not feeling well." "Old remedies work," I continued. With my mother's hopeful eyes on her, Lily reluctantly drank the entire bowl of incense ash water with a grimace. Lily returned to her room to rest. I quietly followed, peeking through a crack in the door. I saw her take out a doll with needles stuck in it, muttering my name as she stabbed it. I recorded the entire scene and left quietly. I noticed that my mother hasn't been herself lately, with huge dark circles under her eyes. I asked her, "Are you not sleeping well? How about I make you some calming tea at night?" She sighed. "Sure." But for some reason, I had been dreaming about Lily a lot lately. I grew concerned. "What have you been dreaming about, Mom?" She replied, "I dreamt she was always with me when you weren't home. I called you, but we argued, and I nearly passed out from high blood pressure. Luckily, Lily was there, telling me she's my daughter and that I should trust her to take care of me." I went silent. Those dreams mirrored past events. Lily had brainwashed and hypnotized my mother, convincing her that Lily was her daughter. Over time, my mother came to believe it. And what did I do? Nothing. I ignored it, stayed silent, and let misunderstandings escalate. I argued with my mother because of Lily, driving us both crazy. My mother pinched my cheek. "What are you thinking about?" she said. "I have my own daughter. How could I let anyone else care for me? I've just been too busy lately, I guess." Days later, my mother rushed home from the office in a panic. I asked what happened. She didn't answer. Instead, she frantically searched for something. She looked at me and asked, "Olivia, have you seen my file folder from the drawer?" I froze, realizing history was repeating itself. I shook my head. "No, I haven't seen it." My mother was stressed. "It's my company's bidding plan. Today your father's company submitted a similar one. Looks like I'm being pushed out of a project. Someone definitely leaked it." Just then, Lily appeared from her room, still sleepy-eyed. My mother looked at me seriously and said, "Olivia, be honest with me. Have you seen your father recently?" I looked down and stayed silent, not denying it. Lily hesitated and then said, "Auntie, the other day I saw Olivia get into a black car, but I didn't see clearly if it was Uncle's car." That totally crushed my mother. She trembled and said, "Olivia, why did you lie to me? Don't you know why I divorced your father? He's got a mistress, yet you're still helping him?" Lily quickly grabbed some tissues and handed them to my mother, soothing her. "Auntie, don't be upset. It's my fault for speaking out of turn. Even if Olivia made a mistake, she probably didn't mean to. Please, don't be angry." I pulled out my phone from my pocket, opened a recording file, and played it. My father's voice came from the phone. "Olivia, this time I asked you out for 2 reasons. One is to celebrate your birthday again, and the other is to see if you could bring me the document from home. It's mine, and I forgot to take it. If you say this, I'm not eating. What else do you have left at home? Your conscience. If you really want to mess with my mother, just say it. Olivia, your father and I really want to make it up to you. Once my company is back on track, I'd like you to come live with us. Dad, I'm an adult now. I needed you when you were with another woman. Mom raised me and now you want to take care of me. It's disgusting. How dare you talk like that?" After the recording ended, my mother's tears had dried up. She turned to me, puzzled, and asked, "Olivia, what's really going on?" I calmly handed her a glass of warm water and said, "I did meet Dad for a meal, but I recorded the whole thing. I didn't want to tell you because I didn't want you to get mad thinking about that jerk." My mother looked confused. "What about the documents?" I looked at Lily and smiled. "Who went into the house and took those documents? Maybe we should ask the property manager." Lily's face turned pale instantly. In my previous life, Lily had also seen my father pick me up, using the excuse of having a meal with me to retrieve something. I had refused, thinking that was the end of it. Days later, my mother sternly asked if I had met with Dad. Our relationship had already soured because of Lily, so I simply said I did and walked out. ignoring her shocked face. My last glance was at Lily's smug expression. My mother never brought it up again, but things deteriorated further between us. She focused all her attention on Lily instead. Later, I learned that the document had been taken, and Lily made it appear as though Dad had asked me to steal it. This incident was the final straw for my mother. She couldn't believe I'd hurt her to that extent for Dad and his mistress. Lily behaved obediently, so my mother gradually lost trust in me. But how did Dad actually obtain the documents, and why was I blamed? That was something to ask Lily. Stealing such a critical file was no small matter. My mother contacted the management office, and soon we obtained a copy of the corridor CCTV footage. The video clearly showed Lily letting my father into the house where he took the documents. My mother was shocked. I gave a cold smirk and asked Lily, "Why didn't you mention letting my dad in?" My mother looked at Lily, her face turning crimson as she stuttered, "I didn't realize. He said he was Maris's dad, so I let him in." My mother was furious. "At least call and let me know. How could you keep quiet about it?" Lily's eyes welled up with tears. "I didn't know he was there to take the files," I replied calmly. "A stranger rummaging through our living room. And you even tied it up afterward. Are you sure you didn't know?" Seeing Lily crying her heart out, my mother sighed. "You should leave. I'll settle your wages." Panicking, Lily cried, pulling my mother's sleeve. "Auntie, I'm sorry. I'm just a girl from the countryside. I didn't mean any harm. Please, give me another chance, Auntie." My mother was firm, finally saying, "I spoke up. Let it be, Mom. Things are as they are. Why blame an outsider? Let her stay for 2 weeks. She has nowhere else to go." Lily looked at me in disbelief. Using some excuse, I sent Lily away. I asked my mother, "Mom, did you do what I suggested about having 2 plans for the design project?" I had predicted Lily wouldn't miss a chance to sow discord between me and my mother again, so I had warned her in advance. My mother nodded. "Thanks to your heads up. Otherwise, your father would have succeeded. I won't let him get away with it. But how did you know everything?" I thought about it and decided it wasn't the right time to explain everything to my mother. I said, "Let's put that aside for now. What I want you to know, Mom, is that you didn't do anything wrong in your marriage with Dad. He was the one who cheated, and I could never side with him. I didn't understand before. I didn't get why in my senior year you wouldn't even pretend for my sake, pretending through senior year before dropping the bomb after exams. But now I get it. I have no right to judge you. You have your choices and your life." Hearing that, my mother's eyes turned red, and she lowered her head, sobbing quietly. "I'm sorry, Olivia. I really am. I did want to wait until after your exams. I didn't want to affect you, but when your father brought that woman into our home, into our bed, I just couldn't take it anymore. I know I let you down, but I just couldn't." My mother's head rested on my shoulder as she sobbed uncontrollably. I held her tightly, feeling her tremble as she said through tears, "I held it in. I endured it. Since you were in middle school, every time he cheated, I kept quiet. But he can't insult me like this. I couldn't tell you before. I was scared you'd ignore me. I'm so happy you're willing to talk to me now." I had no idea. Had I known before, I would have. "Mom, why didn't you tell me earlier?" She continued crying silently. I suddenly understood. It was a marriage she felt she had failed in. She didn't want me to see her broken, so she endured. What did I do before? I didn't understand her. I ignored her. I thought that as a mom, she should just cope with it herself. But she's human too. She couldn't handle it all. That's why she wanted to fulfill childhood wishes and connect with others. She helped those kids and felt valued when she received thank you notes. Lily filled that void for her, giving her the love she needed. But that was my job. I hugged my mother tightly and let her cry it out in my arms. I whispered softly, "Mom, you've done amazing. I'll always, always have your back." After that misunderstanding, my mother lost trust in Lily. Lily, being cunning, noticed. She didn't act out and did her chores quietly, but I knew her well. She wouldn't go against the wind. She's like a hunter waiting for her next chance, and I could give it to her. Soon, our high school reunion was approaching. In the living room, I discussed it loudly with my mother, mentioning some affluent classmates. Lily overheard and came out of her room, quietly asking, "Sis, I've only really met you and Auntie since coming here. Would you mind taking me to the reunion? I pretended to be annoyed. You're not in my class. Wouldn't it be awkward? My mother said. Lily's in college here now. She could use the connections. If anything comes up, they can help each other. I reluctantly agreed, rolling my eyes at Lily. She smirked, satisfied. Before we left, Lily complained she had nothing nice to wear. So, my mother let her choose something from my closet. Lily went straight for my priciest white dress. I watched without stopping her. She smiled. Sis, this won't flatter your skin tone, but it'd suit my fair skin better. Before I was reborn, Lily always criticized what my mother bought for me. Sis, this dress doesn't suit thick legs like yours. This makeup is better for fair skin like mine or Auntie's. I usually fought back, and my mother would side with her. This time, I just watched Lily wear my dress and use my makeup, transforming herself. She admired her reflection, murmuring, "This is how I should look." Yes, every girl has the right to be beautiful, but not by taking what isn't theirs. I took Lily to the reunion. Confidently, she introduced herself as my sister, becoming the center of attention with her striking appearance. She soon connected with my friends, chatting about pop culture and fashion as if she knew it all. By the end of the event, she had added most of my classmates on social media. I watched her little show with amusement. As we left, a classmate named Daniel offered us a ride. "I didn't drink tonight. I can drop you two home." Daniel was one of the rich kids I had mentioned to my mother. He seemed quiet, but was known for getting into fights and handling issues with money. No one dared to mess with him except Lily, who had made a point to sit next to him, drink in hand. I declined Daniel's offer. Lily clearly wasn't happy, but told Daniel, "Don't worry, Daniel, I'll message you when I get home safe." Well, as her sister, I'll help her out. I smiled. Maybe you can give Lily a ride. I've got plans. I'll head back later. Lily's eyes lit up at that. Since then, Lily went out frequently. She told my mother she found a part-time job, but she didn't. She was hanging out with my classmates, especially the wealthy ones. My best friend pulled me aside, warning me about Lily's rumors and lies. "Doesn't it bother you that she's spreading crap about you?" my friend asked, outraged. "Not really. Lies don't become truth after all. And I heard she's dating Daniel, going out at night and posting about it. Haven't you seen? Probably blocked me from seeing it." My best friend bit her straw and said angrily, "Having a sister like that is just exhausting. She's definitely going to Daniel's birthday party, isn't she?" "Daniel's having a birthday?" "Yeah, but he's only inviting classmates he's close with. I heard it's going to be at his fancy house. I've heard his villa is really something." I couldn't focus on what my friend was saying, but I was sure that Lily would surprise me that day at Daniel's birthday. On Daniel's birthday, I told my mother we were visiting relatives, leaving Lily at home. My mother repeatedly reminded her, "Lily, don't open the door for strangers." Lily laughed. "Don't worry, Auntie." I dragged my mother to a cafe. "What are you showing me?" she asked. After having 2 cups of coffee, I knew it was time and took out my phone. I had a surveillance app. After losing some documents last time, I had secretly installed cameras at home. Right then, the feed showed Lily's every move. Of course, Lily couldn't resist Daniel's birthday. Fully dressed, she definitely would dress up. Sure enough, once we left, she ran into my room using my makeup and perfume freely. That perfume was a gift from my aunt in France, one I didn't even touch. My mother sighed. Just let her use the makeup. Maybe it's a new experience for her. We can understand that. I shook my head. Let's keep watching. Lily finished her makeup and went straight to my mother's room. She easily grabbed my mother's diamond necklace and put it on. My mother loved collecting jewelry. Lily picked one she liked and stuffed it into the bag she had brought from home. She knew how often my mother wore different pieces and chose one that wouldn't be missed. My mother couldn't believe her eyes. No wonder I've been missing some jewelry lately. I thought I was just too busy and misplaced them. I didn't know it was her. After picking the jewelry, Lily rummaged through my mother's designer bags, trying them on and checking herself out in the mirror, pleased with herself. She chose the priciest bag, tied it up, and happily went on her date. But that wasn't all. I also showed my mother an audio clip of Lily cursing me with voodoo. Fear filled my mother's eyes. Why would Lily do this? I smirked. Because she's not as simple as she seems. Remember when you posted for donations on that website? Lily was the one bombarding you with messages asking for help. My mother thought hard. Are you saying Lily came here specifically knowing my information for a purpose? But how did she even get my information? And why do this? It was finally time to explain everything. I took a deep breath. Mom, would you like to hear a story? After I finished telling my story, my mother was silent for a long time. I thought she didn't believe me and tentatively said, Mom, but unexpectedly she hugged me tightly. I'm sorry, Olivia. I'm so sorry. I patted her shoulder. I'm the one who should apologize, Mom. It's all in the past now. As soon as I finished speaking, my mother decisively picked up her phone to make a call. I quickly stopped her. If you confront her now, you'll expose it all. My mother was furious. What is there to confront with someone like this? You should just call the police. After calling the police, they quickly gathered the evidence I provided and soon brought Lily from Daniel's birthday party to the station. Lily was wearing my mother's necklace and holding my bag, looking panicked. The police asked her what was going on, and Lily's eyes immediately turned red. She looked at us. Auntie, it's a misunderstanding. I'm just a girl who loves beauty, you know. Why call the police? My mother replied coolly. If you don't tell me when you take my things, how is that different from stealing? Lily's eyes widened in disbelief. How can you say that, Auntie? I'm Lily. Isn't using your stuff normal for me? My mother held me close and firmly said, Why would it be normal? It's normal for my daughter, but you're not my daughter. Lily fell silent, biting her lip, glaring at my mother. The officer said, I've seen your signed agreement. Legally, you're just an employee. We've handled many cases like this, such as maids stealing from their employers. Often, they try to establish ties. I suggest you come clean. Lily quickly told the officer, I'm being framed. They are setting me up. I calmly replied, Everything you did was caught on camera, not just this time. We've got evidence from before, too. How is this a setup? I never forced you to do any of it. Didn't you choose this path yourself? Lily walked up to me, giving a cold smile. You've really changed in this new life, but so have I. Even without you too, someone will take care of me. I'll still go to the UK. What's mine is mine. My life won't be worse than yours. Lily took out her phone and made a call. Shortly after, Daniel arrived at the police station. After understanding the situation, he approached my mother and me, offering to compensate by 10 times the items Lily took, promising she'd move out of my house that night, hoping for a settlement. I looked at my mother, who approached Lily. We can settle this, but I hope you realize vanity is not a good trait. One day you'll learn that what you earn through your own efforts is the most genuine. Lily just rolled her eyes at my mother, ignoring her. My mother signed the settlement. Lily whispered to me, In this life, I've realized replacing you is boring. It's more fun to step over you. I softly replied, Here's my last piece of advice. Stay away from Daniel. He's beyond what you can handle. You might not end up in a rich family, but rather in hell. Lily chuckled and threw her arms around Daniel, giving him a kiss. Daniel asked, What did she say to you? Lily playfully replied, Oh, it was just a few barks, darling. Now we can be together forever. Daniel said nothing, but gently patted her head with a blank expression. Then Lily got into Daniel's car. I watched her shadow fade away and let out a sigh. Lily disappeared from my life from then on. My mother and I cleaned up the messy house, and everything returned to how it was, as if Lily had never been there. The only updates I received about her were snippets from classmates. Lily didn't attend the university she was admitted to. She followed Daniel to the city where his college was. She outright gave up school, trying to marry Daniel and achieve her dream of wealth. It was a worse decision than her past life. Strangely, classmates occasionally received midnight messages from Lily saying, Help me. When someone called back, Daniel always answered, saying they just had a minor spat. But since Lily had lied before, no one took it seriously. However, I was the only one who knew. This time she wasn't lying because Daniel has a natural violence streak, prone to antisocial behavior. I discovered this during high school from teachers gossiping in the office. It runs in the family. Most of the men have this issue. Daniel had been in fights since he was a kid, not stopping even when bloody. His cousin used to abuse animals and set their classroom on fire, but thanks to their wealth, they managed to cover things up. One teacher sighed, I've heard with the right education and parental guidance, someone like Daniel could change. "How is it this bad?" Another replied, "Regular parents struggle to raise kids well. How could anyone guide a child who needs more patience and love? Pity whoever marries into that family." Lily thought she was marrying into high society, yet had no clue she was walking into a lion's den. She was exactly the kind of vulnerable, lone girl Daniel preyed on. To feed his inner beast, Lily would inevitably be toyed with by Daniel. I had warned her repeatedly. My mother also offered plenty of chances. It was ultimately her choice. All I could do was respect others' destinies. Freeing myself from it all, I occasionally took trips with my mother. Even after starting school in another city, I often called her. We shared our thoughts because I knew she needed my company. Maybe my past life was a lesson from above. I had grown up quite a lot unknowingly. Later, my mother told me about a dream she had. She dreamt she loved Lily more and neglected me, sending Lily abroad. But I then fell into a river on my way home, causing her unbearable pain. She realized I was her priority, so she constantly prayed to bring me back, visiting temples until her head was bruised. Listening to her dream, I said nothing, just rested my head on her shoulder. After returning from our trip, we found a basket of eggs and a letter on the doorstep. The letter was from a poor student my mother used to support. She wrote in youthful handwriting about her grades. Her grandmother bought a hen, and with everyone's help, life gradually improved. At the end of her letter, she wrote, "Thank you, Aunt and Sister. I'll work hard in my studies to see the bigger world. Yes, work with your hands and see more of the world." Side note. In my junior year of college, a video went viral overnight. It showed a drunk man beating a passerby. That passerby turned out to be the son of a top corporate CEO, causing an uproar online. Through the blur, I suspected the attacker was Daniel. Hesitant, my phone buzzed with class group chats. "That guy was Daniel," they confirmed. Although Daniel's family had local wealth, his victim's family was much more powerful. They hired top lawyers, determined to put Daniel behind bars without settling for any compensation. They even audited the Daniel family's business, exposing many issues. Overnight, Daniel's family lost everything and went bankrupt. A classmate sighed in the group, predicting Daniel's imprisonment for at least 8 years. After a long silence, someone said, "I saw Lily recently. She got kicked out by Daniel's family with a broken leg. Blamed for everything, Lily brought it on herself. Didn't she?" After that, no one saw Daniel or Lily again. The year I graduated, my mother retired. She wanted to move to my city to be with me more. While moving, we went through belongings to discard. In the pile of waste paper, 2 yellowed sheets fell out. Lily's old contract. I sighed, putting it back. Soon, a recycling lady on a tricycle arrived. Under the scorching sun, she carried a bag, wearing a straw hat, her clothes soaked with sweat. "Lame," she limped over, taking a towel off her neck to wipe her face. She said, "Sorry for the wait. It's pretty hot." Her voice sounded familiar. As she lifted her head, it was unmistakably Lily. She no longer had her fair skin. Her hands were calloused, and her right leg couldn't stand straight. When she recognized me and my mother, her face turned bright red instantly. My mother looked shocked. She turned around, went back into the house, and returned with a bottle of cold water, handing it to Lily. "It's hot. Have some water." Lily didn't take the water. She stared at us intensely. "You forced me away back then, and now you're pretending to be nice. Let me tell you, you're the real culprits in my life." The cold water fell to the ground. I bent down, picked it up, and placed it back in my mother's hand. "Mom, have you forgotten? Let go of the savior complex. Respect other people's lives. She got where she is on her own. We did nothing wrong, and there's nothing we can do." Lily's eyes welled up with tears as she glanced at the yellowed contract. "It shouldn't have been this way. I could have gone to study in the UK. I said softly, 'From the moment you signed that contract, you've been choosing your own path. But I think you're stronger now than when you relied on Daniel. At least you're earning money with your own hands." I continued, "Take these scraps with you. We need to leave here. I doubt we'll meet again." Trading lives, making transitions. It seemed like Lily had achieved that dream, but sadly, dreams are fragile. In the end, it turned into a nightmare.